In today's video, I want to talk about something extremely important, which is allowing brands to scale past $100,000 a day. Okay, kind of like these examples that you can see on your screen. Okay, I want to show you something, an article that Meta actually released. Let me show you this one over here. I'm going to bring you through this article so you don't have to believe me. You can just kind of read what Meta is literally telling you to do, right? Which is always important. And then I'm going to navigate through the strategy so that you can better understand. So I show you what we're doing for our own clients. And if you don't know, we typically work with 8-figure clients as well. And so you can kind of do the same thing for your own brand. So first of all, the creative advantage, unlocking the power of diversification with Meta Andromeda. Okay. As you guys know, maybe you don't, there's a new update called Andromeda. And essentially it's just a more AI powered system to do better, right? And the one thing that Meta itself, they released this article not too long ago, is that they talk about creative diversification. Okay, you have to be diverse. Diversification is extremely important. And they say creative diversification refers to the practice of creating a wide range of ad creatives with different themes, messages, and visuals to cater to diverse audience segments. Okay, this approach acknowledges that advertising is not one size fits all, but you're targeting different people that are in different awareness levels, as you know. And so this is just a testimonial, or call it whatever you want, from Meta, released from Meta. And this is a brand that is basically saying we were able to scale volume. And of course, when you scale volume, it means that you're making more money, or else you wouldn't necessarily like scale volume. But they went from like 3 to 4 concepts a week to almost 50 after introducing this creative diversification, which is exactly what I'm going to talk about in this video. Okay, so you don't believe me? Cool. Just believe what Meta is actually saying. This is really, really important. So let me just go back to the diagram over here. This one quick thing this is what I mean by, and based on what I'm seeing. I see a lot of companies that come to me, even honestly 8-figure companies that they could be scaling more, but they are just sticking to those 1, 2, or 3 or 4 concepts that they've seen work in the past, and then they're scaling to like 50 concepts a week, or 20, 30, 40, 50 concepts a week with just a bunch of different variations. What do I mean? Is that they're maybe doing VSLs or like an image ad and a voiceover, and that's it. And as soon as they find that thing work, they just do a bunch of variations of, let's say, VSL number 3 with like a different hook or like a different CTA, like small different variations. This, at least from what Meta is telling you, literally telling you based on the article and others, is not the best way to approach this. Okay, first of all, if you just stick to just one way of doing this, first of all, you're not targeting different other awareness stages. Okay, and second of all, your creative is not able to scale as much because you're not giving it diversification, which is what Meta is asking you to do. So the one thing that we're starting to really implement on a whole other level is, sure, first of all, we increase volume with iterations. Okay, we don't increase volume by just randomly testing a bunch of things. But the first step towards finding that winner is actually having a different creative approach in terms of diversification. So we want to test founder ads, not just VSLs. Or we want to test like a B-roll plus AI voiceover which is educational. We want to test AI songs, which actually work quite well depending on the industry. We want to test direct offer image ads, pain-driven B-rolls with dramatic songs. Like these are all kind of like specific kind of like, not segments, specific kind of like ad creatives, right? But overall, long story short, let me actually show you something else that we do internally at the company, which is very useful, is that we test and we gather all the viral creative concepts that are working for the client. And this is this sheet that you see over here, by the way, you can get it, there's a link down below. It's called, I don't know what it's called, but this is like a command center, which is a tracking sheet. There's a link down below if you want it, it's free. We use we actually have a creative concepts sheet internally. And this is what we do. Once we have all of our angles in our messaging, so we have the angle, the messaging, the avatar, the emotion, right? Then we want to gather as many creative concepts as possible so that we don't limit ourselves to just testing that VSL, okay? And then after that, we basically scale and scale variations with hooks. That's just one way to do it. Fastest is most effective way because the hook is one of the most important things. And so we end up basically doing this, right? Double chin angle messaging with like different, I don't know how to do this. Yeah, different creative concepts and then different hooks. And as you can see, that's one way to like scale it horizontally. You know, this is just to show you how we manage it internally, but this is how we deal with things. Okay, I want to actually give you a practical example of how to transform something so that you understand what I mean by kind of diversification. Okay, first of all, this is what I mean, just so you see it one last time. We gather winning avatars, winning pain points, winning angles, winning desires, and more and more and more, basically winning concepts, winning things that work, not only concept in terms of VSL, but also like things that you're noticing that are just working on the ad account. And then we diversify by understanding what's viral and working in the market, aka understanding different levels of creative concepts. And then we're basically scaling with completely new concepts, diversifying, but still by keeping in mind what was actually working and getting traction in the ad account. This is a direct example, right? Let's just say we have a winning VSL that's working super well. The first step is to dissect the concept, to understand the components of the concept, because it's the most important thing. You can test all you want, but if you don't actually understand what makes or breaks a winning ad and the components of the ad, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, you're not really a marketer, you're not understanding it. So the first step is to dissect the concept. And so we have, avatar is Lisa with lower back pain. Angle is big pharma is scamming you with pills that don't solve the root cause. So it's like the big pharma angle. The hook is like a woman demonstrating her pain while she's working on her desk. And the concept is a storytelling VSL, storytelling. And so one perfect example to transform this into a new concept which can scale. And by the way, we used this exact same concept for like 7 of our clients. Out of 7 tests that we did, I think 3 or 4 actually really scaled and got the top 3 spend. What does it mean if you don't know when you get spend? It means that the ad account Meta is telling you that this concept is working. If your ad on a CBO level doesn't get spent, it means that it's not ready to scale or it's not as good as your other ads. So the first step to actually come up with a new concept is, let me just read what I wrote here, is do deep research on creative concepts that are going viral in the last 30 to 90 days. Okay, the goal here is to take viral elements, right, to our advantage, ideally within concepts that are directed towards a similar audience we are targeting. Okay, let me just give you an example. I didn't find a lower back pain example, but just pretend that this is a story about lower back pain. I found this exact example on TikTok. We like to do a lot of TikTok things, research, not only on Facebook. TikTok is great also because people are so unfiltered. They say really what the heck they want, and it's great for like customer mining or coming up with new angles. Long story short, not to get out of topic, we basically found that this kind of like very, very raw organic slideshow, which would be a carousel ad in the Facebook, whatever, Meta advertising world, is getting so much traction. Look at the number of saves, 200,000 saves, almost as much as the likes, which you almost never see it. One thing that we measure when it comes to virality is not only just comments or likes, it's mostly shares and saves, because if people share it, it has the chance of going even more viral. And if people save it, it means that it was truly something that they found effective or had the aha moment or found intriguing, or there was some sort of education purpose, or they found it very useful and something that they thought that they could save, right? And so this is unlike quitting smoking or something like that, but you could do the same thing with like lower back pain. You can do the same thing with like, grounding, whatever you're selling. In this scenario, it would be best if the concept is towards an audience that is sharing some sort of similar pain, but you can also do it in other areas like this. So once again, this is a very organic kind of like a slideshow that talks about, it's like sitting on the desk talking about the traumas they had and that they're in Harvard or whatever, and then they notice that this is more, they found a solution that was more effective, and then there's like a call to action. This concept alone works, and so we wanted to implement it into like our new client, and it got spent because it's, as you can see here, it's a 2023 concept. I think this is another one. I think this is an old one. Ideally, you find something that is 2025. However, I believe that my team found something similar that was more recent. This is just another example that I forgot to check the date. Make sure that it's like a now trend, not like 2 years ago, right? Bear with me because I just literally found this ad in like 3 seconds. So ideally, once you find the concept, then you can kind of start building it in your own repurposed way. So let's just say we're doing a carousel, slide 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. You get the point. Now that we have this process, this is kind of like what I mean about changing the concept. I mean transforming a storytelling VSL into a very organic carousel ad that tells a story, right? Why do we want this to be a storytelling process? Because what's working over here is a storytelling ad, right? A VSL, sure, but it's a storytelling ad. So we want to leave this component in the actual ad. Another thing, we are just changing how users will consume the content by changing our presentation while keeping winning aspects and combining it with viral concepts we find online. Now, if you just think about it for just a second, if you combine winning viral concepts and you combine it with your winning ads or your best direct competitor winning ads, meaning that their angle, their avatar, the hook, the concept, all of that stuff, if you combine all these two things together, this and the aspect that it's going viral, like this other new concept is going viral, what if you could kind of like mix and match these two things? Do you think that out of like maybe 10 ads, 1 or 2 or 3 might get spent? The answer is yes, because unless you don't know how to do it. But if you follow this process, I can assure you that eventually, it's just a matter of time, you're going to find the next top spender, because as we already identified, what Meta is trying to push is creative diversification. They want to see diverse. They don't want to see like 70 ads and they're all the same DSL with like a different hook and a different call to action or a different kind of like 7 seconds in the middle of the video. They're putting this type of ad in the same bucket. So if you're at a place where you're just feeling a bit stagnant, that you can't scale, it's probably because of your creative diversification. And that's the first thing that I like to talk about when I hop on calls with prospects or people that want to work with us, okay? Are you diversifying your content? Once again here, this is kind of like a reminder for me. I wanted to bring you through one really cool way to find creative concepts that are going viral is just to spend a lot of time on TikTok. So not to be too boring here or repetitive, you can just literally type in your niche. Let's just say you're trying to do how I quit smoking. Here, as you can see, there's a trend. Let's just say you're selling a product and you're scaling with image ads or you're scaling with VSLs. And then you see on TikTok that all of these people are literally doing very super raw, authentic UGC videos, right? Then this is probably something that you want to test, right? Let's just go after another pain point. Let's just say we're going after hair loss, right? There's probably a lot of people. So this is a recent video, 1.1 million views. Let's just take a look. Right, so this is probably another like super raw video. I already see that I don't know why my internet is not working, but bear with me. Anyways, I'm not going to do it right now because it's too slow. But you know, if there's one thing that's going viral, it's probably transformation. So if you can get maybe a concept of a real transformation or before and after, and by the way, you can get inspiration from these videos and taking aspects and bits and pieces of these videos that are obviously working and putting it into another type of creative concept. Once again, we don't like to just do POVs. We don't like to just do ASMR videos. We don't like to just do X reasons why. We try to diversify as much as possible, okay? I can promise you, if you combine good creative strategy research, combining the aspect of the viral concept that's working today, and you combine it with a different type of, and you combine it with proven messaging that is working on your ad account, you'll find your next winner. It's just a matter of time, okay? That is it for this video. I just wanted to really give you a quick rundown of what we're doing just to keep you updated. This diagram over here, it's kind of like another topic, but it's kind of like in relation to diversification. Whenever we're trying to scale, not even $1 million a month, like this is probably even like $5 to $10 million a month. But when you're trying to scale, you have to diversify your angles, your concepts, but not only your offers, your personas, your products, right? Diversifying, meaning introducing your products, markets. These are all ways that you should start thinking eventually once you get to a point where you're scaling and you're making money. And by the way, to get to $1 million a month, you don't really need all these things. You need a good offer, obviously product market fit with a good product, a decent product at least. Okay, that solves an important problem in my opinion. But you need a good offer and a good creative process, right? That's what you need to get to $1 million a month. If you want to get to the next level, then you have to start thinking about diversifying these other things. More offers, more personas, scaling with products, scaling with markets, US, Canada, Australia, UK, Europe, UAE, whatever. And scaling, and this is kind of like the creative process. But these things, 1 and 2. That is it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions. If you are a brand doing at least $100,000 a month, you can just book in a call to explore the opportunity of actually working together as growth partners. We typically work with 7 and 8 figure clients, as you can see on the top over here. This is kind of like our experience. If you want a free audit, you can book in a call. You're probably going to speak with me or one of my team members, and then we can explore the opportunity of working together. On the other note, since we don't really have a lot of members and I'm excited about my community, we only have like 30, 40 members, I believe. I like to keep it small. If you want to kind of like speak with me or consult with me, but also connect with other 7, 8 figure entrepreneurs, you can join my school community if you want. That's it for this video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.